We are in the fourth turning. It's very important for people to understand. This is a phase that mankind goes through again and again and again, and they make it through it. And the choice is either the government and the oligarchs control everything and own everything, or we choose freedom. And I highly suggest people choose freedom.
This is Kaiser Johnson with Liberty and Finance, and this is the Miles Franklin Weekly Special for July 31st through August 6, 2023, while supplies last. This week we featured 2023 1/10 ounce gold eagles at just $37.50 over melt. The gold eagle was first released in 1986 and has been one of the most popular gold bullion coins in the world, providing incredible recognizability and investor trust. The 1/10 ounce eagle is additionally sought after for its high degree of flexibility and liquidity. Like the 1 ounce eagle, the 1/10 ounce eagle is 22 karat gold strengthened with copper. It's 1/10 of a troy ounce of gold. Comes 50 to a tube, 5,000 to a box, and is available at just $37.50 over melt while supplies last. Finally, the Gold Eagle is IRA eligible. And if you'd like to learn more about a precious metals IRA, call us and we'll be happy to help you in that process. To order our specials or any of the many other options we have available, call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you.
Hey everyone, this is Elijah K. Johnson with Liberty and Finance. And back with us today is our good friend Bob Moriarty, Marine Naval Aviator and founder of 321gold.com and 321energy.com. Bob, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's always a genuine pleasure, and we have some interesting things to talk about today.
No, we've been really, with you looking at this ongoing banking crisis ever since it started in March of this year. We did just see the takeover of PacWest by the Bank of California, and also kind of quietly, a smaller bank in Kansas fell on Friday. Your perspective on the ongoing banking crisis and how it seems like, just more banks continue to fail.
It's something that we've discussed at some length. And we have already had more banks collapse in March than collapsed in 2008. They've been holding back the dam, but it appears the dam is bursting now. And there was a piece I posted 2 days ago. Half of U.S. banks with $11 trillion in assets have lower asset value compared to debt liabilities. Their asset value is $2.2 trillion lower than their book value. So literally, I mean, what they're saying is half the banks in the United States are bankrupt right now. And when they go, they'll take the rest of the banks. Now, there are several things that are very important to notice here. The IMF just allowed the Chinese yuan to be used as a currency to settle accounts. That's a really big deal. It's something that would be invisible to most people. That's a big deal. And second of all, the credit rating of the U.S. government has just been lowered. We have had record highs in the Dow and the S&P and the NASDAQ literally up until a few days ago. And I think lowering the credit rating is pulling the plug on the financial system. We'll see very soon.
No, I did ask viewers to submit questions, and since you mentioned the debt downgrade here, Charles asks if you think the Fitch's downgrade of the U.S. credit rating will be the trigger for a market collapse and reset.
I think that's absolutely accurate, but what we really need to do is we need to answer the very last question first.
Oh, can we meet Fax?
Yeah. Hang on. Hey, Fax, come here. Hey, Fax, say hello. Say hello. Can you say hello? Come on. Hey, Fax, my buddy, right? He's a border collie with a mind of his own and a sense of humor.
Fantastic. Well, at the end of the interview, we'll definitely ask about, one viewer is wanting to know another story about facts. So we'll definitely ask that question. With regard to the debt downgrade, the viewer is wanting to know if you can expand on that, I guess, if it will be the trigger for the market collapse.
Okay, I think I've used this analogy before. When an avalanche starts, it starts with a single piece of snow, and it starts at the top. So we had a top in the S&P, and we had a top in the Dow, we had a top in the NASDAQ. As fragile as the financial system is, it hasn't shown up in the stock market, and lowering the debt rating is the pin that the balloon has been looking for. It's a great question, absolutely accurate.
Now, when it comes to the banks, if we could discuss a bit more about that, because I know, obviously, and one bank hasn't fell in quite a couple months here. Do you see this as what do you see for the timeline going forward? Now that we have seen the debt downgrade, do you see banks to fall faster going forward here?
I'm not sure anybody can predict that. Certainly the powers that be are trying to cover it up. It's like a cat in a litter box, okay? Once they crack, they do their very best to cover it up and pretend it doesn't exist. They've done an excellent job, and I thought back in March it would be cascading immediately, and it obviously hasn't been. But the piece I just sent you from 2 days ago, half of the banks in the U.S. Are worth 20% less, or have a negative 20% value. If they got $100 billion in market cap, they've only got 80 billion in assets. So the banking system is extremely fragile, and that's true throughout the world. We have discussed the quandary the Fed is in. If they keep raising interest rates, they blow the system up. If they lower interest rates, we get hyperinflation, and they chose to blow the system up. And that's what the credit agencies just said.
Now, Bill from Florida, I believe, is asking is this collapse by design? Is the trigger going to be by design? The question is, will the collapse happen organically under its own weight, or with a pull the plug kind of action?
Okay, that's a really good question. It's a very perceptive question. The question is, will it collapse organically, or will somebody pull the plug? And I think the answer is it is collapsing organically, and the credit agencies will be blamed for it, but it was going to happen anyway.
Now, this viewer, I believe we've had a similar question before, but if you could remind our viewers your view on, do you think the economy will collapse before a world war occurs, or the other way around?
I'm hoping the economy collapses first, because if it's the other way around, it won't make any difference.
That's a good point. Do you think that if the economy collapses, there may not be a world war? Because obviously we're seeing an escalation of tensions around the world right now. Do you see that a world war is very likely at the moment, or could we somehow escape that?
My gut feel says I don't think there will be a world war, because the idiots in Washington are having to face the fact that every lie they've been telling for the last 18 months has floated to the surface, and now everyone realizes Ukraine was corrupt, Ukraine is corrupt, the money was all stolen, there are no weapons left to give them, and they have destroyed, and I mean Ukraine has destroyed Ukraine. There have been hundreds of thousands of soldiers killed for no purpose whatsoever. Putin and Lavrov were absolutely clear about what they were demanding, and they're going to get it in the end. So the question is, how stupid can Poland and NATO and the United States B. And I think they're at peak stupidity now. And I don't think there will be a world war, but Ukraine and NATO and the U.S. have lost catastrophically.
Now, back to the economy here. We have a question about the economy and also mining, actually, of precious metals. The question is, if the stock market collapses and we are taken back to an honest money system backed by gold or silver, how would a mining company or stock be valued?
That's a really good question. If you go back to the Great Depression, home state mining was the leading stock on the Dow Jones from 1929 to 1937. Mining stocks, and this will be across the board, actual producers will have substantially more value.
Now, the second part of the question is, if we do see this kind of gold or silver backed system, would the mining companies in essence be banks because they're producing wealth?
I think it would be a stretch to call them banks, because banks take in money and loan money, and mining companies don't do that. However, the real key is they're producing real wealth, and the cost of their inputs, the cost of diesel, the cost of labor, will have gone down in relative terms to the value of gold or silver or any other commodity that they're making. Mining companies were a big part of the economy back during the Depression, to the tune of 9 or 10% of the economy, and they were 3% of the economy as late as 1980, and they are half of 1% of the economy now. So if the question is, will mining stocks reflect real value, I think the answer is absolutely yes.
So these next two questions are on precious metals. The first one is, I guess, speaking of the economy as well, what if everyone is wrong on precious metals and they can be kicked many decades down the road? So speaking of the economy, like what if the can just be kicked many decades down the road? Do you think that's possible?
They have filled the can with cement, and every time they kick it now, there's more pain. And the internals of the financial system and the stock market are so dreadful, I don't believe it can be kicked further down the road. I've been saying for the last 6 months that I thought there would be a market crash in October, and I'm going to move that up a little bit. I thought the market would top in early September, like it did in 1929. But the market has clearly topped now. So I think the next 6 weeks, 2 months, there will be a clear crash.
I know the last time you said that, it was, I believe, December 2021, and we saw that was pretty much right around the time that it topped, and then we saw a huge downturn in 2022 for the stock market. So I guess we'll hold you to that again and have to have you back on to see what happens. We have another viewer's question on precious metals. How do we move or relocate precious metals to another country?
Okay, that is a simply brilliant question. And unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to totally answer it, but I can answer part of it. For people in the UK, and this is for anybody, I mean, you go to the UK, you can buy British sovereigns with no VAT, no tax, and you could sell them if you're a UK citizen with no tax. Now, in France, you can buy coins like the Russian ruble, like the German mark, like the French franc, like the British sovereign, coins that were legitimate coins in circulation. You could buy them with no tax, no premium. However, in France, you have to pay a 7% tax when you sell it. So the answer is basically every country is different, but some things are relatively similar across the board. Buying and selling silver is a bit of a problem outside the United States and Canada. You're going to pay a premium and you're going to pay tax on it in most places. Same thing with platinum and palladium. So it's going to vary from country to country. Moving gold is actually very easy because you could move it to the UK, or you could move it to France, or you could move it to Switzerland, and there's no duty and there's no tax involved. You couldn't move bars, but you could move gold coins that were in circulation.
And obviously, this isn't any tax advice or anything, but I do know that in some circumstances between some borders, if you hold sovereign minted coins, when you're traveling, you only have to declare the face value, which is just a nominal face value. For example, on the Gold Eagles, it's $50 for an ounce of gold. So that can be helpful sometimes so that you don't have to declare the actual value of the precious metal.
Well, let me raise an issue there, because you just raised something that's important. The Gold Eagle never was a circulating coin. So you would pay VAT or duty on it in the UK and France because it would be treated as something other than a circulating coin. But the answer in general is it varies from country to country. Some things are very easy, buying sovereigns, buying French francs, buying Denmark's gold rubles. Those tend to be very easy. And I have a friend that just went to Russia and buying gold and silver at spot. You just walk into a bank there.
Fantastic. We have a viewer's question on freedom, because this is a very important topic for our channel, obviously, liberty and finance. The whole idea behind the name is so that we can, protect our finances so that we can also protect our liberty, because when a crisis hits, people often sacrifice their liberty into the government's hands, right? Donna Hansen wants to know, how do we build durable freedom?
Okay, that's a great question, too. I want to put you on hold for just a minute. Let me go downstairs and get a book that just arrived today. Okay, this book literally just arrived today. And it is by the author, one of the authors of The Fourth Turning. And we've talked about Fourth Turning before, and this literally just came out print a month ago. But he's talking about the fourth turning, the crisis phase is here, and one of the alternatives is freedom. We can either go to full-blown totalitarianism, or we can go to freedom. One of the things that I'll say, you're seeing a lot of shoots. I'm trying to think of the British. Nigel Farage had his bank account canceled because the bank didn't like his opinion. And that was a real big mistake to make to Nigel Farage, because he was very vocal about it, and he got the CEO of the bank fired. You were seeing things happen now, and people clearly see the danger from the government, and they're starting to fight back. And I hope there's a lot more of that.
We have to protect our freedom, and in so many ways we've just given it over in the past couple of years, where we're so dependent on these large organizations that can just completely blacklist us or shut us off from the things that we need just to survive on a daily basis.
That's true. However, people are fighting back. 2 state governments, the attorney generals, have sued the United States government for literally going to Facebook and Google and Twitter and demanding people be censored. That is absolutely illegal. That's against the Constitution. It's against the Bill of Rights. The government has no right to do that. And states are finally fighting back. The fellow, and I can't think of his name, the pillow guy that supported Trump, had his bank accounts frozen, well, not frozen, canceled, his wife's accounts, his children's accounts, and people working for his company. And this is all illegal. I mean, it's absolutely outrageous, and people are upset, and they are fighting back, and they're starting to have an impact, and that's really wonderful. Same thing with the Canadian truck drivers. Trudeau and Freeland literally were seizing bank accounts from people with as little as $50 in contributions to the truckers. Now, the Canadian truckers are the bravest people that I've ever seen, and they were fighting something that was dead wrong.
Any last thoughts? I guess I would like to get to the last question here, but any last thoughts on this before I'll let you go, Bob? Ways that people can preserve their freedom in the face of all the craziness that's happening right now.
Okay, it's a good question. I'm going to give you a long answer. Education. You have to educate yourself. Now, we have seen extraordinary changes in the world weather in the last 6 months. The narrative is it's climate change. What we need to do is lock people down. And it's absolute rubbish. And I posted a piece yesterday saying the 101-degree temperature in seawater off of Miami, the record flooding in Beijing, the record temperatures in Arizona and Texas, the temperatures in Europe. It all goes back to one thing. On January 15th, there was a volcano erupt near Tonga. And it's a very funny number. If somebody wants to work it out, I would be very happy to have them work it out. There were 146 teragrams of water thrown into the atmosphere. And of course, water is a greenhouse gas when it's a gas. And that's what's causing all this extraordinary weather all over the world. It's not caused by humans. It's not caused by fossil fuel. It's not part of climate change. It's part of nature. So it's very important that people educate themselves. And there's lots of information available, but you got to go out there and find it. And you've got to learn how to think for yourself. And I'm thrilled that people are actually waking up and realizing, hey, wait a minute, the system's broken and we need to come up with a solution. We need to fix it.
One last question about your dog facts again that we saw earlier in the interview. Can you please ask Bob for a story about his dog facts?
Well, I would just love to do that, but every day there's a new fact story. I have a friend visiting me now from India, and she takes care of 60 homeless dogs, and she knows you could call her a dog whisperer. And she said, "Do you want me to teach you how to make facts sit down on command?" I said, "Sure." It took her 2 tries, and I can now make facts sit down on command. And she's teaching him how to shake paws, which I thought was really cool. And we drove down to Spain yesterday just so I could show it to her. And we had to stop and get some bread on the way home. So we got out of the car. I left the window down because it was hot and I didn't want Fax to suffer. So we walked to the store. It was like 5 minutes total. We were gone. And we were walking back to the car, and I saw this dog that looked just like Fax. Oh, wow, there's another one looked just like Fax, tail wagging, friendly as he could be. And I looked closer, and I realized it was Fax. And Fax had decided there were some ladies around, so he jumped out of the window of the car just to go meet the ladies. But Fax is quite a rascal, and he keeps me young.
Fantastic. Bob Moriarty, thank you so much for your time today. If our viewers are interested in learning more about your work, where can they find you?
321 Gold or 321 Energy or Amazon, all my books. And I highly suggest people get this book. We are in the fourth turning. It's very important for people to understand. This is a phase that mankind goes through again and again and again, and they make it through it. And the choice is either the government and the oligarchs control everything and own everything, or we choose freedom. And I highly suggest people choose freedom.
Fantastic. Bob, once again, thank you so much for your time. We'll put links to all those things in the description of this video. Yeah, thank you so much for your time, and God bless.
Good deal. And in fact, says hello.
Miles Franklin Precious Metals is one of America's oldest and most trusted bullion dealers. Miles Franklin is A+ rated and accredited by the Better Business Bureau, licensed and bonded, and has 0 complaints ever registered. Here at Liberty and Finance, we are licensed brokers with Miles Franklin. To order, simply call us, discuss your needs, and we can let you know our live inventory, prices, and availability, and lock in your order over the phone. Once your order is locked, the price is held for you regardless of market fluctuations, and the metals are reserved for you awaiting your settled payment. Within 1 business day of ordering, you will receive an email invoice detailing the order and payment instructions. Miles Franklin accepts payments by bank wire, ACH or electronic check, money order, check mailed priority mail, and cryptocurrency. The fastest forms of payment are bank wire and cryptocurrency. Upon settled payment, metals will ship out within 3 to 5 business days. You will receive tracking information via email. Domestic shipping charges are $15 for any order under 500 ounces of silver or 10 ounces of gold. For orders larger than that, domestic shipping is free. The package will be boxed, fully insured, and labeled discreetly, with no indication of the contents inside. For your privacy, the name Miles Franklin will not even be on the package. To talk to myself, Kaiser, my brother Elijah, or my father Dunnigan, call 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237.